Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Production Lessons. This week is vocal mixing. This is one I find particularly interesting, and I'm sure it's probably something that you'll enjoy to either learn about or do too. So, right now, we started with just a basic track, and we've got some vocals from a friend of mine who's also in WMHD, Elliot. He offered to allow me to use his vocals for this lesson. So, with the full mix, let's hear what we've got.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell, got back on one knee, and then I looked you in the eye and said, Elizabeth, will you marry me? This is the one thing I could say to you. I hope it finds its way to you. I hope you know that I love you. Can you come again? Can you come again? Can you come again?
So, so let's break down how we got to there. First, I'm just gonna solo off the vocals, and we'll go through each of these effects individually. Um, okay, I believe that's this one. No, it's not. It's this one. Here is an automation clip. We covered that back before. That's what gives it the radio, like old telephone style effect later on. We'll cover that in a moment. So for the effects, I started off with an EQ. Usually you start off with a reductive EQ. So you take out whatever frequencies, you have to really listen to it, and you take out whatever frequencies you find that are harsh to your ears. So these are the ones that I found that were a bit harsh. And to find them, you can basically do sweeping, and you just take you scroll through each of the frequencies and you boost them up really, really high, and then you see if it's annoying, if it hurts your ears, and then you drop it down, and then you drop it down a little bit. Don't drop it too much because this is when you take away frequency, you're thinning out the voice. So don't try not to take away too much. So I usually drop it around maybe down to 2 decibels is about good. Uh, so the next EQ I use to boost a little bit, cut off some of the low end again, and then boost some of the mids and highs just to give it a bit of brighter sound. Maximus right here, this is a de-esser. So in the EQ, we ended up boosting some of the frequencies that were higher, and the ones that are especially harsh are the S's and T's and those kinds of consonants. So those frequencies, usually around the treble, are around between maybe 7 and 11,000 hertz. Those are the frequencies that will be very, very dominant and will stick out to a listener. So we need to account for that and drop it back down when we're mixing the vocals. The limiter, I use this just as a compressor, just to make sure that the volume was even throughout. Put on a bit of distortion. Put on a soft clipper to make sure it didn't clip. A bit of tuning. Pitcher, this is one of the stock plugins. No auto tune that's free is perfect. So for this one, I had to do a lot of manual correction using another plugin that I won't get into. It's a bit advanced for what we're going for right now. But for generic ones, Pitcher and maybe like if you're using Audacity G Snap or something like that, they're okay. They aren't perfect, but they do correct for off note or off key pitches. And then the last part was just a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay, and then some EQ. This is the automated one to make it sound like it's very distant. So let's go through and see what each of these does. Okay, so we'll start with no effects on. We'll leave tuning on a little bit.
After that, We were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake.
So it doesn't sound very clean. There's still, this is before the EQ, so we can tell that there's definitely some frequencies that need to be cleaned up to get it to sound like a even song. Uh, enable the instrumentals as well. So let's add the reductive EQ.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell.
So it's sounding a bit better. Now we have the um, additive EQ where we boosted some of the mids, and then we'll also throw on the de-esser. And I'll play a section that has an S without and with the de-esser just so you can see uh, the full extent.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell, got back on one knee, and then I looked you in the eye and said, "This bad, will you marry me?" This is the one thing I could say to you. I hope it finds its way to you.
Okay, so we'll play this part again. There's a couple S's in here with, we heard it without, and now let's compare it to with.
Will you marry me? This is the one thing I could say to you. I hope it finds its way to you. I hope you know that I love you.
So it's a bit less harsh on the ears. If you'll notice towards the beginning, there was a bit of a big difference in the volume of each word. So you can see it in the waveform, and you can tell audibly that we're going to need to use a compressor to make sure that the level is even.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake.
So it sounds a bit uneven, and then we'll throw on this compressor. And we used a bit of some harsh compression, 3 to 1 and a low threshold to make sure that it was all even at, I think it was -9 or so decibels.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell, got back on one knee, and then I looked you in the eye and said, "This bad, will you marry me?"
So that's with the compressor. Threw on a bit of distortion. A trick for using distortion, you don't want to overdo it, but it can help to hide some of the tuning that you do to your vocals. So if you have like some harsh tuning, if you turn the speed like all the way up, um, and you throw on some distortion, it might hide that hard tuning a bit better. Here's with distortion.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake.
So it boosts the volume a little bit, and it enhances some of the frequencies in there. We've got the soft clipper, that's just making sure it doesn't clip. And then we've got pitcher, which is the auto tune essentially. Won't go through that now. Reverb and delay. We've got reverb up pretty high, but we turned the actual mix knob down pretty low.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake.
So it helps to blend with the song a little bit better. And then the delay did the same thing.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell, got back on one knee, and then I looked you in the eye and said, "This bad, will you marry me?"
And then this last part is the EQ that we automated here. And it has the shape like this. And we automated the wet knob or the mix knob. So if you remember automation clips, it will enable this plugin to the full effect. It goes all the way up to 100% throughout this interval here.
Me, this is the one thing I could say to you. I hope it finds its way to you. I hope you know that I love you.
So those are the basic kind of process, the basic steps and plugins that you'll use. Typically, I try to think of it as EQing first, and then EQing with addition, you may need to do de-essing if you have a lot of S syllables in there. Compression, and then tuning, and then various effects to help it mix. So the various effects are like the reverb and delay. So we started off with the EQ, we got the two EQs, and then the de-esser. We've got the compressor. We have another effect in here, a couple effects, the distortion and the soft clipper. And then we have the tuning, which we actually did beforehand using a different plugin. So it was already tuned most of the way. Just I included this last safety check of tuner on the pitcher on the audio clip as well. Um, and then there's the reverb delay and EQ. And another a useful tip for getting your vocals to sound good with the track is side chaining. So if you remember when we covered side chaining, we go down here and we right click and then we hit side chain to track and then we throw on a limiter and then we go into the compressor and we check the side chain tab. So in the limiter, we lowered the threshold so that every time the vocals come in, it's going to actually duck down the volume of the instrumentals. So if we listen to with and without, for this track, it's very, very minimal. But if we were to increase it, you'd be able to tell, and it would definitely stick out more than it is right now.
After that, we were going on a date. Unbeknownst to you, this was no ordinary walk around the lake. I tripped and fell, got back on one knee, and then I looked you in the eye and said, Elizabeth, will you marry me? This is the one thing I could say to you. I hope it finds its way to you. I hope you know that I love you. Can you come again? Can you come again? Can you come again?
So that is the basics of vocal mixing. Really, it just takes practice, and there are some resources online. If you're interested, let me know, and I can send you a link to a couple of places where you can get vocals that you can adjust the raw vocals instead of ones that already have effects on them, which are hard to find. Uh, so yeah, that covers it for this week. Next week we have a brief intro to sound design, and there will be a stream this weekend. Other than that, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you guys this weekend.